Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of Dingers and Stingers, the podcast that you will not catch burying the Chiefs, no matter what happens. I don't care who they lose to. We're not going to do it. I'm Dallas, that's Drew, and that's Matt. And this is our NFL episode for this week. We are covering week 5 of the NFL, the week that was. Later on the show, we will, have the return of a new segment that we have called Take on Me, where we have a hot take from one of our loyal listeners brought in, and we'll talk about that. A little later on, we will also take a visit to Fan Corner. We'll also make some predictions for week 6 coming up here. And then we will cover our dingers and stingers as well. Packed show today because we are going to start with some quarter-ish season awards. But before we do that, let's go around the league in 20 seconds here. Name the winners and losers from week 5. This is on me. So, start those clocks because here we go. The winners from this week were 49ers, the Vikings, the Bucks, the Broncos, the Saints, the Texans, the Cowboys, the Panthers, what? The Colts, the Titans, what? The Commanders, the Lions, the Patriots, what? And the Jaguars. Losers from this week were the Rams, the Browns, the Seahawks, the Eagles, the Giants, Ravens, Jets, Dolphins, Raiders, Cardinals, Chargers, Bengals, Bills, and Chiefs. So there you go. That's week 5 in a nutshell. Who won, who lost. Some teams on bye, so if your team wasn't mentioned, you know why. And so let us move on now to our first segment for today, which is our quarter-ish season awards. With the expanded season a couple years ago, there is no quarter point to the year. That's neat and tidy. So we're just over a quarter of the way through the year now through week 5. And so let's give some picks for the front runners for some of these major awards. So I've had you both pick some players or a player for an award. And if we have the same pick, we'll just combine it and talk about that player. But let's start with the biggie, MVP. And we'll go to Drew's pick first. So who you got for MVP a quarter of the way through?
Yeah, I mean, a quarter of the way through, 5 games is a really hard amount of games to really kind of separate yourself from the pack. So I don't have one guy who's running away with it here. So I chose 3 different quarterbacks. And I know that's kind of boring and lame, but it's almost always a quarterback. So I kind of just went that route. And the first name on my list is Daniel Jones, simply because who would have thought the Colts would be where they are right now? They're 4-1 to this point. They've had some absolutely they just dominated the Raiders, which I'm not saying the Raiders are good by any means, but they just took them to task. And he's been totally good for them. We were all kind of surprised when he was announced the starter as early as he was, but so far it has paid off for the Colts. I also want to shout out Matthew Stafford, who is leading the league in passing yards, and there was some other stat that I forgot to write down that he's leading the league in, but Rams are 3-2 so far, but he has been a big reason for their success in their successful moments. Everyone thought maybe he was dead, and he has been quite good this year. And maybe a last year, that'd be a cool little victory lap. And then my last quarterback that I chose is Baker Mayfield. The Bucks are 4-1 so far. He has been playing great. I believe he only has 1 interception to this point in the year. He's not like leading the league in anything, but the Bucks have looked like quite a good offense, and I'm here for the Baker Mayfield resurgence.
Yeah, good picks all around. You have Daniel Jones, who is currently 2nd in the NFL in EPA per play. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy. Like, he's above Josh Allen. He's above Lamar Jackson, who has been hurt. He's above Dak Prescott, who we all know is playing really well. In the last couple of weeks at least, Dak's playing really well. And we might talk about Dak here shortly a little bit. But Daniel Jones, shout out to him, absolutely. Any guesses as to who's number 1 in EPA per play as a quarterback? Daniel Jones number
based
two.
Based off the way that you've said that, I'm gonna say it's Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it's Sam Darnold. Very interesting. Yeah. So just wanted.
He's
to
also
that.
PFF's number 2 graded quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun for me to be able to do that. But Daniel Jones, it's unreal. And like you said, Drew, they're smoking people week in, week out. They're not a weird 4-1. They are smoking people. Is there it's kind of hard because to what we thought they were going to be preseason, before the season started, every team is a real team. But what's the next realist team they have on their schedule? I'm trying to look and see, because they have the Cardinals next week, which is not a serious football team, as we found out. Yeah, they have the Chargers the week after.
Chargers have been put through the ringer, though.
Yeah, Chargers can be beat for sure. Chiefs a little later in the year. Jags a little later in the year. So, and then they have the couple strong teams in the NFC West a little later. So we'll see how it goes for them. But in the immediate term, I expect this Colts team to keep winning and Daniel Jones to keep balling. So some good picks there. And then Baker, we'll talk a little bit about Baker a little bit more with Matt's picks and then also later in Fan Corner too. But unreal season from him so far. He is, I think every game maybe, or at least 3 of the games so far, he's had a game-winning drive. And so, he's playing out of his mind. So let's continue the QB talk with some of these same names we've heard, and let's go to Matt's picks for MVP.
Yeah, I'll start off by saying, I saw Drew's picks with all the quarterbacks, and he's absolutely right. A quarter way into the season, it's damn near impossible to be picking who will be the best player of the season because so much changes, and we've already seen so many injuries. But I did have 2 of the same. When I kind of did my array of players here, I had Stafford and I had Baker on this list. If you even just watch football, you would see how much each of those dudes means to their team. I don't think that either of those teams would be necessarily considered good offenses given other quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, Dallas, you just said it, I believe in every single game essentially that they've won has been because he led a game-winning drive with less than 2 minutes. Stafford puts the Rams in position to win every week where, I'll talk about this later. We are basically a functioning field goal unit away from being 5-0, much because of Matthew Stafford. The other person I have, and he did get briefly mentioned, but not Daniel Jones, I put Dak. I am a bit publicly of a Cowboy hater and not a Dak fan, but something about this Cowboys team has really made me think dang, props to Dak. He may not have the postseason performances. He may not have any of that, but this was an offense that was supposed to be significantly worse talent-wise than it's been in a while. Their offensive line is fully gone now. They've had injuries to that offensive line. They have no, they weren't supposed to have any essence of a run game. They weren't all these things. And all of a sudden, and Brian Schottenheimer's the new, and all of a sudden, Dak is going toe-to-toe against one of the most daunting defenses in the NFL and puts a 40 burger on the Packers. And that's without CeeDee Lamb. And, they lost Kevontae Turpin. And there's been so much turmoil and change and injuries surrounding him. And yet when Dak is on the field for the Cowboys, they seem like a lock for, double-digit wins every year. And I don't know if I had given him enough credit for how much he meant to this Cowboys team, because it's always seemed like they've had some other elite thing, right? They always had either the elite defense or they had the elite O-line. They had the elite run game. They had the elite receiver. There's always one other piece that could take partial credit or more credit. And now it feels like he's just doing it with nothing. And George Pickens is not nothing. I don't want to discredit the players that are also performing, but probably the worst defense in the league. Basically one receiver who's a 50-50 3 flags up type of guy. And then a
bunch of guys who've just been passed around from other teams. Like I want to give my props to Dak publicly, because it'll never happen again. But in this moment this week, I'll I gotta respect it. Dak's been showing out.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine this offense looking like a ton better than it has the last couple of weeks. But I mean, CD's return is still to come. And so when you throw him back in here, this offense goes from really efficient to scary. And so if the defense could pick them up in games against good teams, that would be great for them. But, this is maybe, kind of shaping up in the early going to be, maybe one of the most wasted quarterback seasons, potentially, if this defense doesn't shore up when it comes to Dak. But let's move on to the next award that we want to give for the quarter season here, and that is Offensive Player of the Year, and we have the same answer for this. So let's talk about Puka Nakua. Why did you guys choose him as your Offensive Player of the Year through Week 5?
Yeah, I'll go first with this one because I want to get it out of the way. This is not a biased pick for me. And, Puka Nakua is one of my favorite players, and, I have him in fantasy. Like, I'm not going to lie and say that this is not one of my guys. Like, if there was a few guys on the Rams I had to pick from, Puka would probably be at the top of the list. That aside, you just have to look at the numbers. Like, at the end of the day, like, I'm usually not one for being like a box score watcher. I'm usually like, oh, watch the games. You can watch the games and he's balling out. But if you look at the numbers, there is such a steep fall off from where he is to second place in any receiving category, whether it be receiving yards, whether it be catches. Like, he is just dominating at a level that we haven't frankly seen before. They were showing this all throughout the lead up to the 49ers game. And even in the 49ers game, he had like a down game and he still put up like 10 catches or something, had, a bunch of yards. Like, a down game for him was still a great game. And they're showing, the pace that he's on. He's currently, and this is 5 weeks in, so like, give me a break. This is 5 weeks in. He is on pace through 5 weeks to have the best season ever by a receiver ever. That's catches, that is yards, that is everything. He is on pace to be the NFL's first ever 2,000-yard receiver. And people don't really see it because he's not doing it on a pace like Tyreek was that one year, where it's like it seemed like every week we saw some 70-yard touchdown. He's doing it on these little bubble screens and like 5 to 10-yard in routes. Like, he is just gobbling up yards in the most efficient, ethical way. It's truly remarkable. And then, I give him props as well. He is the best blocking receiver in the NFL. The Rams use him literally as a fullback and a tight end, which gives him other great looks as well. But like, this is a dude who, when he's not catching 12 balls for 150 yards, is fully setting the edge in our run game. Fully, he is taking on massive defensive ends, and he's going up the middle and blocking the second level on our interior runs. You'll see him. He comes in motion and then he shoots right between the guard and tackle, and it's his job to get that linebacker to spring the run. Like, I can't speak highly enough about Puka. He is on a record-setting pace that we have not seen ever, essentially. So fingers crossed he keeps it up. That is the bias I'll leak in here. Is I would love to see it. Matthew Stafford would be responsible for the 3 best receiving seasons of all time, which is just fun. That's a fun thing, and I think Puka's deserving. I think he's genuinely seems like a good guy. He's always happy to be there. So I like rewarding guys who I think, 1, deserve it, but 2, seem like they're cool.
Yeah, for me, it's not that deep. He's on pace for 2,000 yards receiving. That's Offensive Player of the Year, There's not really much of a discussion from there. And I know, Matt, you obviously watch much more closely Rams football, so I definitely trust anything you're saying about his, other abilities outside of catching the football. But yeah, certainly that's enough for me.
Yeah, no question. I mean, this was maybe the easiest one to call, right? So far through a quarter of the way through the year. Yeah, totally agree. It's wild to watch, and we'll see how it ends up. But for defensive player of the year, we have two different answers here. So let's go to that award and start with Drew's pick.
Yeah, my pick for this, it kind of relates to my pick preseason, although it is a different guy. I'm going with Nick Bonito of my team, the Denver Broncos, but my logic is pretty straightforward. Preseason, I picked Myles Garrett because I thought someone who gets a bunch of sacks is almost always Defensive Player of the Year, and I thought Myles Garrett could be that guy. Well, so far, Nick Bonito is on pace for 23 sacks. He has 7 through 5 games. The Broncos defense has been very good. It's a big reason why we've been successful this year. I think that can play into it. Like, okay, who's a really good defender on a really good defense? I think sometimes that can be like a tiebreaker of sorts. So again, same with MVP. It's so early in the season, so much can change. But as of now, with his pace and how good the Broncos defense is playing, I'm going to go with Nick Bonito.
Yeah, Broncos defense still, when it comes to, defense against the pass, still one of the top defenses in the NFL again this year. So totally makes sense to go with the player off of that defense, 100%. And so let's go with Matt's pick for Defensive Player of the Year. Talk about your pick and why you have him up here.
Yeah, my pick for Defensive Player, Drew's absolutely right. Typically, this award does go to basically the highest impact edge player. There have been, other players that have won. I just think it'd be fun to see some change, honestly. And this is a guy who I think is making an impact on a defense that last year was really, really bad and has turned it around quite steeply, becoming one of this year's best defenses. And that is Devin Lloyd, the middle linebacker for the Jaguars. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was the AFC Defensive Player of the Month, if not just the week. But he has been outstanding so far. He leads the NFL in interceptions. He is one of the leading tacklers in the NFL. He's basically just stat padding across the board. And not in the way that most linebackers do, where it's like teams are running out the clock and just run the ball and your linebacker ends with 18 tackles or something. Like, he's doing it, and the Jaguars are a top defensive unit. And he's doing it, and they're winning games. And he's doing it, and he's honestly making big enough plays that he's impacting them winning games. Most notably, the pick six going 99 yards against the Chiefs last night was a thing of beauty. Faking the blitz inside, dropping back, completely fooling Patrick Mahomes and ripping the ball out from in front of Travis Kelce, going 99 yards the other way. That was awesome. He picked off Brock Purdy twice in their game against the Niners the week before. This is a guy who is just balling out. And, he's had a disappointing career compared to his draft slot up until now. But this seems like he's having one of those rare, I think he's either in his 3rd or 4th year, but he's having one of those later, basically breakouts in a rookie contract. And this is a guy who was taken in the 1st round to kind of be the staple of this defense, and he's finally pulling through on that. I think an inside linebacker winning Defensive Player of the Year would be sick. Like, it's just been a while since we've had good middle linebacker appreciation in the league. And I feel like, the NFL is starting to tilt back towards that early 2000s look where you want good run games. You want to play good hard-nosed defense. And what a way to bring that back with, middle linebacker DPOY. So going Devin Lloyd.
There you go. Nice. Yeah, the Jags, their defense this year looks really nice. They are not going to be an easy out for anybody going forward this year because the defense is playing so stout, and Devin Lloyd's a big part of that. So, that's a great pick. Next award is Offensive Rookie of the Year. We have the same person here as well. That is Emeka Egbuka from wide receiver U, Ohio State. And so he plays for the Bucks. And so why did we choose Emeka Egbuka for this award so far?
I'll go first on this one. He's been having a great start to his career. 5 games in, he's averaging 89 yards on 5 receptions and 1 touchdown per game. I think he's only second in the league in receiving touchdowns. And to me, that's one of the best receivers in football, let alone rookies. So to me, he's a pretty slam dunk case for this award.
Yeah, in the same way that we kind of were like, oh, Puka seemed like an easy one. To me, this was even easier. I think there are still guys playing at a level that they could be Offensive Player of the Years. I think Jonathan Taylor, etc. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I don't think it's particularly close. I mean, can we name another rookie who's truly week in, week out dominant? Not really. Ashton Genty had a single week. Omarion Hampton looked solid, but then kind of, had some ish games and then got hurt. You're not going to give it to a offensive lineman. The quarterbacks have looked average. Like Emeka Egbuka, man, has just been so good. And everything Drew just said. I mean, you look at the numbers, he is one of the best players in the league, let alone just a rookie. So to me, this was as easy a pick as we'll ever get for an offensive rookie so far.
And to point out, too, I mean, we credited Baker Mayfield when we were talking about MVP. I mean, this is a 4-1 Bucks team that has missed Mike Evans, has missed Chris Godwin, and has missed Jalen McMillan, all for various amounts of time, and hasn't missed a beat, largely because Egbuka has been that receiving threat down the field.
Yeah.
And missing Bucky Irving, too. Like, the injuries on that team really have been staggering, and yet Emeka Egbuka being there has kept them stable.
Yep. Having just seen it up close, he is one of those dudes. Man, he was, I'll talk a little bit about this in Fan Corner. There were some missing folks in the secondary for Seattle, but he was barbecuing who was out there, and so all game long. And so, he is definitely a name to watch. I think, when we do quarter season awards, some of these names will fade into the background, but I think, Egbuka is one of those names to watch for this award going forward, especially in the absence of a ringer at quarterback, too. So, last award we want to talk about, Defensive Rookie of the Year, maybe one that's a little harder than the others to pick, perhaps, at this point in the season, but we'll start with Drew's pick and let us know who you picked and why.
Yeah, I had the hardest time with this one, I would say, of any of the awards. I ended up going with Jihad Campbell of the Philadelphia Eagles. I know they, lost some guys on their defense. It has still been pretty stout. But, I am not even capable of doing a deep dive into his stats, but I just feel like his presence has been felt on that defense, and he's made his tackles, he's made his starts, he's been a big part of an attempt at a Super Bowl repeat, and we'll talk about the Eagles in a little bit as well. But I just had a tough time in general trying to parse through the defensive rookies and really pick someone who stood out, but I think as of now, he would be my pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add some context to that. Jihad Campbell is awesome. I did not pick him, but don't get me wrong. He's absolutely deserving, and if he won, it would be deserved. He's, once again, by a lot of metrics, not just one of the best rookie linebackers, just he's been one of the better linebackers this year. His pass coverage has been awesome. His actual like run defense has also been awesome. Like there's not really a weakness to his game so far. So he's absolutely deserving. My guy I think is a little flashier, a little bit better, and I think there's a kind of like a narrative to the pick. I'll just go straight to mine. Jahad Campbell was a first-round picked to a superstar defense. Like, a lot of the things that you could imagine went right for him went right. He played at Alabama. My guy was, and if you went back and watched our draft, I had this guy ranked as like a top 5, top 10 player in the draft, but he had some injury stuff. He ended up falling into the second round, and all he's done by PFF grades is be the 3rd best corner in the league. That is not, once again, we keep kind of using this terminology, but that is not just a rookie. That is in the entirety of the league. And that is Will Johnson. He is a cornerback for the Cardinals. I know it may not seem like much, but this dude has been lights out. He has been locking his people up. He comes up and makes tackles. He's been great in run defense. And again, he is graded as the 3rd best corner in the league right now. Like that to me means something for a rookie who is not, every single team passed on him because of the injury issues. He was seen as this like elite talent, elite prospect, but they thought, there's going to be some trouble there. And he, so far in a very injury riddled season, has proven that to be a non-factor. And so, yeah, I'm going Will Johnson. Gotta love some DB love. Again, staying away from the edge rushers in this one. There's an obvious answer for DPOY, or Defensive Rookie of the Year, I should say. But I think Jahad and Will Johnson both would be awesome picks.
Yeah, no question. If there's a bright spot for the Cardinals through week 5, that's one of them, for sure, and maybe the best one. Especially in a division where you have teams who have really good receivers coming up. And, some who are already here, Puka's already here. But for Seattle, you have Jackson and Jigba coming up this year. And for San Francisco, you have Ricky Pearsall, who looks solid. So if you're the Cardinals, you want a guy who can go up against those guys and at least do, a good enough job of, taking them out of games as much as he can. And so it looks like they might have that, which is great. So that'll do it for quarter season awards. Appreciate the contributions to the discussion as always. But now let's go to our segment where we crowdsource a little info here. And that is our segment called Take On Me. So it's one hot take from one of our loyal listeners. The submitter this week of the take is friend of the show, Matt Robertson. And the take that these guys will be discussing for the next little bit is that no team knows what to do with tight ends these days. The star tight end has disappeared and is gone. And so the idea that the star tight end is gone, no team knows what to do with their tight ends. That is the idea that we're going to be talking about. So take it away, you guys. Let's talk about this idea and what you guys think about it.
Drew, I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with this take. Now, I know numbers for tight ends have been down so far this year, but I do think through 5 weeks, we can't really say definitively that it's going to be a down year overall. I think tight end can be a position where you kind of, over the course of the season, start to find that comfortability and find the way the offense can really gel. And I think there have been guys who have stood out this year. I think Tyler Warren, the rookie tight end for the Colts, has had a good year so far. And of course, all the classic guys have had their moments. Jake Ferguson in Dallas is having a solid year. Travis Kelce has had his touchdowns here and there. They're still in use. I mean, and that's not even considering, like, George Kittle was expected to have a great year. He's been hurt since week 1. I just like, you can be disappointed in the tight end play to this point of the season, but I just kind of reject the notion that teams no longer know what to do with tight ends. I think it's just a matter of either prioritizing other parts of the offense and using your tight ends differently, or B, they just haven't hit their groove yet. And I think we will see some more typical tight end play as the season progresses.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I probably do agree with you in that sense. Like, a lot of the guys who are supposed to be stars have just been hurt. Seeing Bowers out, seeing Kittle out, like, these are guys who are expected to kind of be the top tier, like, game changing type of tight ends. Because let's be very honest about the tight end position. We've been a little bit spoiled in our generation with tight ends. We had Gronkowski, we had Jimmy Graham, we had, underrated guys. We had Olsen, Witten. We were alive to see the Julius Thomas years with Peyton Manning. Like, we've been very spoiled with our, and it's like, that wasn't like a commonality for the majority of NFL history. And granted, I'm not here to debate eras, but the idea that no teams are successfully using tight ends, like, I think I would agree with you there. But at the end of the day, I think you also can see this year, like, there is clearly a downfall in terms of the, like, usage and, like, the actual, like, efficiency, if you will, of tight ends. I feel like they've become, like, solely, like, when was the last game, if any, this year where we saw a tight end just take over the game? Like, truly take over the game. Because last year and in the few years previous, we've seen games from Travis Kelce where he goes for 152 touchdowns. We've seen Kittle do that. Brock Bowers as a rookie was doing stuff like that. Even Kyle Pitts as a rookie, in a sense, was doing stuff like that. Like, we've seen a lot of these tight ends have these crazy plays. This year, arguably the closest one is maybe, I think it was like week 2, Tucker Kraft had like 100 yards and a couple touchdowns or something. But like, it's one of those things, like, I feel like that's the part that's been missing is tight ends as a whole. We've kind of, and the injuries do play to this, just feels like there is something missing at the top. And maybe that's because we've been so spoiled with tight ends that some of these guys aging out and phasing out, plus, some injuries this year, it just feels like there's no tight ends in that upper echelon right now. And then the NFL is moving back towards a run dominant, theme, if you will. It's becoming more and more common. We're not seeing as many 400-yard passing games. We're not going to be seeing any 5,000-yard passing seasons anytime soon. Like, there's just a shift in the scheme, in the trend. And I think that doesn't bode well for receiving tight ends. At this point, half the tight ends who are still relevant in the receiving game are glorified receivers. I mean, you look at who, in terms of like per game, stats, is looking like he could end up being one of the top guys. You look at Darren Waller. Darren Waller's came out with his hair on fire, after making his debut 2 weeks ago for the Dolphins. And if you look at his snaps, like where he's actually taking his snaps, he's barely taking a snap as a tight end. He's playing in the slot and he's playing out wide. He's just a big boy wide receiver. Like, that's the modern tight end. And so I think that's another reason sometimes it may go a little bit like unnoticed is we don't have a ton of guys dominating as true tight ends anymore. Kittle, love Kelce, love his game, one of the best receiving tight ends of all time. Kittle's really the only true dominant, like, tight end of this era, in my opinion, where he is genuinely a vicious, dominant blocking tight end who can also beat you in the pass, who can also take a ball to the house. It's the reason Gronk, in my opinion, is the best tight end of all time, is because their run game went behind him. He dictated both parts of their offense, both run and pass. And that's kind of what tight ends used to be and are supposed to be. And I just feel like we don't see that anymore. So I don't know, long-winded answer, but the tight end situation this season has been one of the most intriguing ones for sure. And missing those guys at the top definitely it does make it feel like there's something missing from the league.
My last little thought on it is that I wonder if it's something where the league, the defensive minds in the league have figured out how to kind of neutralize the tight end after years of the tight end being the hero for a lot of teams. And then the offense, will adjust back eventually. It's an ebb and a flow, as all sports are. So
100%, dude. I mean, they used to talk about like, oh, the best tight end is one who's bigger than a DB, but faster than a linebacker. Well, dude, now we've got linebackers who are 6'4" and run a 4.4 40. Like, at some point, the athleticism caught up as well. Like, we have safeties like Kyle Hamilton who are 6'4" and have a 4.4 40. Like, at some point, just the talent and the athleticism caught up to the position. So I think you're absolutely right. Like, it's going to be up to offensive playmakers to kind of come up with new ways to find their advantages. And right now it might not be with the tight end.
Yeah, that was something of my thought to round out the discussion too, is there has come a point now where we do see, by and large in the league, the size and speed mismatch that was the tight end on the linebacker doesn't really exist by and large anymore. And so that neutralizes the kind of tight end production that you can see from a receiving standpoint. I think that what's happening now is that, and maybe where our submitter might have been coming from is when, tight ends are a position that you take in fantasy football because they are, technically speaking, offensive contributors, and they catch balls and they catch touchdowns sometimes, and they rack up yards, put up stats. But from that perspective, if teams are now using their tight ends more as a way to take an advantage in the run game rather than the pass game, that doesn't really help if you draft a tight end that's not Kittle or even Laporte over in Detroit, or whoever you want to say here, McBride over in Arizona, those guys who still receive a lot. When you don't draft those guys, you kind of end up a little screwed, because a lot of the tight ends in the middle tier and certainly the bottom tier are used more like blockers for to take an advantage in the run game and use them almost as an extra, as a fullback or as an extra offensive lineman in those situations. Part of the what they call the big packages in the NFL, the goal line stuff, the short yard stuff. You have in Seattle, you have AJ Barner. He's our tush push guy. He's not the quarterback. The tight end is. He's the guy that gets pushed if they run that play so far this year. And so you have things like that going on with tight ends, where they're employing them in different ways to get advantages in different areas, and those areas are not necessarily the passing game anymore.
Dude, Tyler Warren is taking direct handoffs in the Colts offense. Like that's where we're at with the tight end position, is they are just trying to find ways to, again, reclaim those athletic advantages, because like you said, Dallas, defense is caught up. At the end of the day, defense is athletically caught up. The mismatches, you can't just run a tight end down the seam and know you're going to have a mismatch. That doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, it's an interesting shift in the NFL culture for sure.
Yeah, well, any last thoughts on tight ends before we move on? All good. Well, another spirited discussion for Take On Me. Thank you to our submitter, Matt. Appreciate the time, Matt Robertson. Hopefully you tuned in to see our take on your take, and we'll be back with another take hopefully next week. And
good luck to your Mariners.
And best of luck to the Mariners as Matt Robertson's Mariners fight on, hopefully, in these MLB playoffs. Next up, we're going to Fan Corner. So let's take a few minutes and talk about our teams, where they're at, what happened in Week 5 for them, and where we're at, what's going on in these teams' world. So let's start in Ramsland with Matt.
I'm going to keep mine short. We lost a Thursday night football game to the 49ers. We lost it in a fairly heartbreaking fashion as we were beat by Mac Jones and a cast of misfits. That being said, I can't be too upset at this point. Mac Jones is 3-0 on the season. I say that as if it was like, oh, we lost to the backups. Well, the backups actually in San Francisco have outperformed the starters to this point. Far and away, they have outperformed them. And at the end of the day, I briefly mentioned it earlier. We've had 5 blocked kicks this season. 2 against the Eagles in a game where we lost by what a field goal would have won. And then 2 field goal and an extra point against the 49ers. Again, a game where we lost barely. So it's one of these things where I'm like, if we can just shore up our field goal unit, man, like we've had some fumbling issues, but at the end of the day, like our defense has been solid. Our offense has been good enough. Stafford looks awesome. And if we just made those field goals, we're 5-0 right now, right? Like we would be an undefeated team, and that's easy. Almost any team can basically be like, oh, if these things didn't happen, we'd be undefeated. And like usually I'm not that type of guy, but like truly it's like you can't give up 4 blocked kicks and a blocked extra point and expect to be winning games. Like we were bound to lose a few games, and the fact that we lost both of those games by basically a field goal to me is enough to point to like, yeah, we're good. Like we genuinely could have been 5-0. It's not like, a field goal gets blocked against the Eagles and we lose by, 21. Like both of those games were very close. Both of those games came down to a last field goal, and 2 times the Rams have failed to block the interior of a field goal block. And those guys have pushed up and they've gotten to the kick. We're 3-2 still, and pretty much every one of our competitors outside of the 49ers also lost this week, so it's not like we really lost any ground in the NFC. So at the end of the day, I'm mad. I don't like losing to the 49ers, but when I do my season predictions for the Rams, there are 2 teams that will always get a win, at least one, every season. It is the Seahawks and it is the Niners. I will forever predict season splits between those 3 teams. Because it's always competitive. Even when the teams have been bad, those games are competitive. It's just in the nature of this division and how these teams play each other. So, this is our split. We'll get them in the next one. And, we got lucky. I mean, if we lose this next game against the Ravens, the Lamar-less Ravens, that will be concerning. Next week could be a very different conversation for me. But as of right now, next week feels like a game we should be able to get right. And it feels like a game we should be able to take advantage of. So 3-2 could be much worse. Also could be much better. So that's where we're at.
All right. So that's the Rams. Let's go now to Drew and the Broncos. Coming off a big one.
Yeah. Honestly, very similar situation to the Rams right now. We have the same record. We're 3-2. Our 2 losses have each been on last-second field goals. So, in some ways that feels good. In some ways that feels very bad because it's like, oh, those are the kind of wins that turn into losses that could come back to bite you like when we're figuring out seeding and everything. But this week was good. We beat the league's measuring stick, whether that's right or wrong. That's kind of how we do things. The reigning Super Bowl champs, the Eagles, they had not lost a game yet this year. But they finally did to the Broncos. And it was after the Broncos looked pretty bad to start the game. The Eagles came out to, I believe it was a 17-3 lead. And the Broncos ended up winning 21-17. So, Bo Nix, when it mattered, he made the plays. The defense came through just like it's been all year. That's like the main talking point I have. so far this season. But yeah, that's a really good win. You know, we can talk about the Eagles more another time about, you know, how good are they truly? You know, there's some concerning things there, but that was their first loss. It came at the hand of the Broncos. It was in Philadelphia. I think it ended a home winning streak for them. That was, I can't remember the exact length, but
10 games.
Yeah. So a long streak for them was ended. And it's the kind of win that, you know, like a team like the Broncos, who, yes, we made the playoffs last year. Yes, a lot of people had high hopes in them this year, but they haven't really done anything yet to really latch onto. That's the kind of win to latch onto. It's like, okay, they beat the Eagles in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And the Eagles hadn't lost yet. Like that's kind of a statement win. And so feel good. Tied with the Chargers on top of the division right now, except they beat us, so technically in second. But I'm looking at the schedule ahead, and obviously it's the NFL. Anything can happen. I'm not counting these all as wins, but that was kind of what looked like a tough stretch. We lost to the Colts in week 2. I didn't expect the Colts to be good, but it seems like they are. And the Chargers, we expect them. And the Bengals, who, without Joe Burrow, were absolutely terrible, but I would have thought that would have been a tougher game when I saw the schedule. And then the Eagles. You come out of that 2-2, and it kind of eases up. You got the Jets in London this week. And then you got the Giants after that. You have the Cowboys after that, who, you know, we talked about Dak. He looks great, but that defense has not looked good at all. You got the Texans, who have looked up and down. You got the Raiders. You've got the Chiefs, who... Are the Chiefs still good? I mean, Dallas was correct. I'm not going to write them off yet, but we'll see how that looks in week 11. So it's kind of looking nice for the Broncos. And I know a lot of people already had them as like a playoff team coming into this year, but the schedule looks very favorable to them. They just need to keep taking care of business, and I want to keep seeing improvement from Bo Nix, because that was the biggest concern through the first 4 weeks was, you know, I don't exactly understand the advanced metrics for football, but he was at the bottom of a lot of them for quarterbacks. I think that's slowly improving, and I needed to keep improving. But the defense is giving me all the hope in the world. And, you know, the time that I can remember in my lifetime watching the Broncos win a Super Bowl, it was because the defense was dominant. So, things I like to see.
It's not a bad place to start. And there's for sure a window in that division right now. And so it would be great to see the Broncos leap on top of that. All right, let's go to the Seahawks for a brief moment. It's never fun to lose the game that every media outlet spends the next week talking about. But the Seahawks did that this week. They lost to the Bucs at home, 38-35. The first half was terrible and bad. It was 6-7, I think, by the end of the first half, or maybe 9-7 on the Bucs side. But it was 13-7. Bucs led at the half, and the Seahawks did not score until the last drive of the first half. Their first 3 drives of that half were just stalled by penalties, and then a weird call to take Sam Darnold off the field and have Jalen Murrow come in and try to pitch it to Ken Walker, who the pitch was bad and it was a fumble. So that's really not good. And so bad first half. The second half, offense is just, the defenses were not on the field. Like, it looked like 7-on-7. There was no line to speak of on either side. And the offenses were just carving. So not a fun game to lose, because especially considering the fact that the defense for the Seahawks did get one stop in the fourth quarter that they needed. The offense went to the lead by a touchdown, and then they couldn't stop them again. But the Bucs still only tied it with a minute to go, 3 timeouts, and Sam Darnold, who is shredding in this game, I was for sure the Seahawks were going to win. Like there was no question the Seahawks were going to go win the game. But Sam Darnold now has 2 very unlucky turnovers on the last drive of the game, a really close game that the Seahawks could win. The first being the fumble in the Niner game, the first week of the year, when the ball just kind of hit Abe Lucas's back because he got bull rushed into him by Nick Bosa, and then he just dropped the ball. And then in this game, he tried to throw the ball away and put it into the ground, but it bounced off of a defensive lineman's helmet and stayed in the air, and it got picked. And so very unlucky turnovers. You hate to see that, especially in this game because he was balling. But a really good quarterback game. Baker and Sam Darnold did it really, they did their matchup justice of they looked like guys who could have been top picks all game long against really bad defenses. The Seahawks, by the middle of the first quarter, did have 6 defensive starters who were out playing. 3 of them were ruled out before the game, and then a few went away as the game went on. But the Bucs were injured on offense too, so they should not have been able to shred the defense like they did. The defense should have stepped up, and they weren't able to. Really hurts that Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, and Richard Sherman were all in the building to watch that. I don't know. I can't imagine what Earl Thomas looked like. He's I come to 1 game in 10 years, and I have to watch this. I bet he was disgusted by what he was watching on that field defensively. But yeah, there's some concerns with depth for the defense for Seattle, especially the defensive line. When they've been injured the last couple of weeks, they've regressed to 20th in pressure rate and 26th in pressure to sack rate. They're just not getting there with the backup guys that they have in. And so they need some starters to come back, and it does not look like they will be coming back all that soon. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes. Next game is against the Jaguars, who are not going to be an easy out, especially not as easy of an out as you thought they might be at the beginning of the year when you looked at the schedule. So I'm having kind of the reverse feeling of Drew right now, where it's the beginning of the season, I looked at the schedule and I was like, hell yeah, Jaguars. Yeah, I'm with that. We got the Colts. Yeah, let's go. We're going to beat their ass. It's nope, probably not. These games are going to be close. These teams are good. And, it's going to be hard. So last thing I'll say about Seattle, and this is not, I really would like Mike McDonald to continue to be the coach of the Seahawks for a long time, but he's got to start winning at home or he's in trouble. 4-8 at home since he took over as the head coach, and we're allowing a lot of points at home, a lot. So when you're a defensive coach and you can't win at home, and the reason you're losing is because you're allowing teams to run all over you, not good. And so if he can't start winning at home, he might be in some trouble come next year, which I would not like because I really do like him as a head coach. So that's what I'll say about that. Gotta win some games here, Mike, at home over the course of the rest of the season. So we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of where I'm at on the Seahawks right now is kind of just middling. I don't know what's going to happen.
Did the 12s take any responsibility for that? Because, that was a huge part of, your guys' home advantage was it felt like teams couldn't run a normal cadence in Seattle. And I feel like, it's not talked about these days of the impact that the sound in Seattle has. It's been a while since I've heard that topic get brought up. Do you think there's any anything to that? Is that just hey, it's been a while since we've been a dominant team, so kind of get to winning again and the 12s come back in force? Or I that's a genuine curiosity for me.
I think that was a concern up until this year. I think there have been some games certainly where because the problem is you sell a bunch of season tickets to people many, many years ago, right? They have these season tickets forever. They always renew them. When your team is good, they show up to the games by and large. When your team is not good, they sell their tickets to try to make a little bit of money to either visiting fans or home fans. And most often it's visiting fans who are trying to come up on some tickets. And so that was a problem, big, as of last year for the last few years because they hadn't been putting a product on the field that was exciting, especially from a defensive perspective. And then last year, no one really knew what to expect, so they were selling their tickets off. They didn't look great last year either to start the year. But I think so far this year, we've had a couple of games at home, a few, maybe 3. The first one was against the Niners. The Niners, they have fans everywhere.
Niners travel.
They make it a point to get as many people in visiting stadiums as possible, especially for division. So I wasn't surprised to see a lot of Niner fans there that game. And then the Saints game was pretty great. They won that game by a lot. The crowd was into it. And then this game, I thought the crowd was pretty noisy. I thought it might have impacted the defense a little bit for Seattle, actually, because they had a lot of their starters out. And so the communication between the backups wasn't really there when the crowd is so loud. You maybe couldn't communicate non-verbally as much as you could if you had some starters in there. And so I thought maybe the crowd noise actually impacted Seattle negatively more than it impacted the Bucs negatively this time around. But it was there. But the fact that it was there was actually not great for Seattle. So it was weird. But we'll see how it goes the rest of the season. But yeah, the last few seasons it's been a worry for sure. The fans. That just means I got to get out there. I got to finally go to a game out there. I got to show up. All right, let's move on from Fan Corner onto our Locked In segment to make some predictions for Week 6. So, Drew, take us through your prediction from last week and talk us through your prediction for this week.
Yeah, last week, my prediction was that the Patriots would give the Bills their first loss of the season. And wouldn't you know it, that was on Sunday Night Football, by the way, I was correct. So
suck it.
I don't have much to say about that. I did it based purely on vibes, and it happened. So that's kind of cool. Drake May looks good. But this week I'm going to get even bolder. I don't want to just pick every week this team will beat that team, so I'm going to get a little more specific. I'm going to say the Bears play the Commanders this weekend. Last year, the Commanders ended up winning on a last-second Hail Mary that was tipped in the air and caught and all that. I don't know who's going to win this game, but there is going to be a successful Hail Mary in the last second. that is my prediction for that game for this week.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah.
We need a Hail Mary. I haven't seen too many yet this year, and we need an honest to goodness try.
Eagles tried.
Yeah, the Eagles tried one, to no avail, but we need a good one to take a shot at it. So let's see if it happens this
You
year.
guys see the video of Jalen Hurts running down the field, almost getting there?
Trying to catch his own.
Yeah. But good, nice try, buddy. But all right, so let's go to Matt for your prediction from last week, and then your prediction for this week.
Yeah, I predicted that the Ravens would lose their game, falling to 1-4, making them a statistical, anomaly if they were to have turned it around at any point. And they did lose, and they lost pretty embarrassingly. I believe they got like 30 or 40 points put up on them, and they had like zero offense going. They looked bad. And granted, the Texans are better than I think what they've shown so far, but they were not a team that's been like playing super well this season. And so for them to come out and really they basically treated the Ravens like a get right game is pretty shocking. So there's that. I mean, the Ravens are 1-4, which is insane to think about. They'd be a top 3 or 4 pick right now in the draft, which is also insane to think about. But yeah, so that I'll count that as a dub as well. When I was looking at the segment and thinking, what do I think's gonna happen? I had this sensation that I've had before, and this is a sport that I do know the trade deadline for.
That's a good start.
And I'm going to ignore the facts. I'm going to ignore the facts anyways. I'm going back to my well. I am predicting that the first notable trade of the season will be this week.
So Joe Flacco wasn't a notable enough trade.
Joe Flacco happened before we recorded, so unfortunately, I'm not going to give myself a cheesy little W here, as Joe Flacco was traded just mere hours before taping. So no, he is notable enough. I would have counted that for a dub, certainly. I would absolutely have taken that for a win, but no, I'm gonna stay in bounds here. I'm not gonna curve anything. There's going to be another trade. We'll see. If I want to get real crazy with it, it's going to be a running back. If we want to go even crazier, maybe Alvin Kamara. We'll see.
The Saints are good,
but I don't want to. I don't want to make those my official. I don't want to make those my official things. I still want to have a chance at this.
All right. Yeah, good. Always a good idea to keep it general to start, especially considering how far out we still are from the trade deadline, as you know. But the Saints are not a bad team, by the way, to start taking a look at for some teams who might be calling to pick some of their players off. Because that's a good team to start with. All right, so there you go. Lock them in and keep us accountable. We'll check in on them again next week to see how we did. But let us now go to our last segment for the show, our titular segment, Dingers and Stingers, where we have the guys take one good thing, a dinger, and one bad thing, a stinger, from the world of sports for the week. So we open it up a little bit here to any sport, including fake sports. So on that note, let's start with Drew and give us your stinger, buddy.
Yeah, I'm just in the worst fantasy football season of my life. I have two teams. I have a combined one win so far, and I haven't even been like super close to winning games either. And it's like in crazy way. Like this week, I have Bijan Robinson. He had a bye, so that's you're not going to look too good with that going on anyway. But then it's like I started, what's his name, DeMarcado or whatever on the Cardinals, and he had one of those classic, I'm going to drop the ball before I cross the goal line type of plays. So just insult to injury. It doesn't even matter. It's not even like a situation where in years past I was scoring a ton of points, just getting unlucky, or leaving points on my bench. Like none of that's happening to me. I'm just not getting any points. And I've swung a decent amount of trades to try to kind of crawl out of this. And it's just, it's not happening for me this year. And so in our league, there's a punishment for last place. So I really, I do need to lock in to some extent. The only bright side to it is that Matt, I believe you're the last seed in the playoffs right now, and you're 2-3. So
I'm 2-3, but I'm the number one scoring team by 30 points.
Right. So yeah, Matt took that crown from me, but that does mean if I go on a little run, if I win a couple weeks in a row, I'm right back in the playoff hunt. But there's just no indication that that's going to happen anytime soon for me. So it's just a bummer because I do really enjoy fantasy football, and it just kind of sucks. It's like Sunday is not fun to look at the thing. So it's a bummer.
For the viewers, I will add some context. I'm in both of the leagues. I believe that you are in.
Yeah.
And both of them are hyper competitive and aware. It's not one of those ones you see the TikTok videos where they're here's the 4 waiver wire picks of the week, and it's 4 guys who got drafted. In these leagues,
I'll never, yeah.
These are leagues that are very, very competitive. And so, and it's crazy too, in the league, our main league, not the dynasty league that we're in. I don't know that we've ever seen a universal worse year for everyone. The best teams are barely scoring points. The worst teams are barely scoring points. Nobody is scoring points this year. Our hot take submitter, Matt Robinson, was joking. He's averaging what, 60, 70 points a game right now, which in fantasy football is pathetic. It's it's genuinely crazy. And Matt's been one of the best players in our league for the past few years. Like, it's just this crazy thing, man. This season is a little bit cursed.
Yeah, more than a little, I would say, for sure. But let's move to Matt's stinger for the week so we can keep the train rolling here with the bad, and then we'll end with the good. But first, we must get through Matt's stinger. So what you got for us?
Yeah, my stinger of the week, I kind of bounced between some ideas, but really the thing that I kept coming back to is I don't know if you guys watched the Arizona game. There was a play that happened that genuinely, like, this may be like the worst I've felt for a player since Mark Sanchez had his butt fumble. And we're not going to talk about Mark Sanchez. We're not going to get into that on this podcast and all that.
Oh.
But since the butt fumble, there's not been a play where I've genuinely been like, aw, like sad. Like, I feel bad for that guy until this week with Kyler Murray, where he got snapped, like the center snapped the ball and it hit him in the head. And this is in like a crucial moment in the fourth quarter. And what follows is him getting pulled to the locker room to get checked for a concussion. And it's just this like amalgamation of things with Kyler Murray where it's like, and I've been critical of him. Like, I don't think that he's necessarily a franchise quarterback as of right now. I don't think he's the best leader. He kind of, fumbles in big moments, but like, dude, you're playing the Titans. And like, this is a guy who I have rooted for in the past. And it's like, you're playing the Titans, who are like the worst team. And your team has such a clear pathway to victory. And you're getting concussion balls from your own center because you're not even looking. Like, I don't know. It was just this moment where like, it's not often I feel sad during football unless like, the Rams are losing. But like, genuine sadness came over me when I saw the ball hit him in the head, and then watching him get taken off the field for concussion protocol was just like, I don't know, man. That was just kicking the horse while it was down. Like, that was sad. It made me sad.
Yeah, no question. Even if you're critical of Kyler Murray, to watch some of the stuff that happens to him on a week in, week out basis is kind of tough. Absolutely.
I think it's just like secondhand embarrassment. Like,
yeah, that's
you just like, you're like, oh man, that's supposed to be like a professional, man.
That's part of it too. Is some of us have this just like it doesn't happen to anybody else because it only happens to him. But feature vacuum. No, don't do that to them. All right. So look, let's end with the good here, as we always like to do. And let's go to the dingers, and let's go back to Drew for your dinger for this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back over to baseball for my dinger this week, and as it always is around this time of year, there's the manager carousel going on. Every team that got rid of their manager is starting to round up the candidates to hire their next manager. And I'm reaching that age, and this is like, we've talked about this with like guys retiring and stuff. It's like, it's kind of weird in some ways. It's like you feel old, but it's the names being mentioned for some of these manager vacancies. It's like, that's a player I knew so well. So like, for example, the Angels have kicked around Albert Pujols and Torrey Hunter as potential managers. The Giants, I saw, were interviewing Nick Hundley, who is just kind of like a journeyman catcher, which is classic manager vibes. And obviously in the last few years, there's been guys that fit this mold. Stephen Vogt fits that mold. Skip Shoemaker, who the Rangers just hired to replace Bochy, he fits that mold. But it's just like I just remember being a kid, and I only knew all the managers as managers, of course. And now it's like, oh yeah, like Stephen Vogt is over there managing the Guardians to the playoffs. Like, I just watched him play for years. Albert Pujols being the manager of the Angels would just be insane to me. I mean, I'm not saying it would be bad. I'm not saying it would be good either, but it would be insane to me. And so just some of the stuff, it's pretty awesome. I mean, if I'm these teams, I'm probably would prefer to look for guys with coaching experience in the major leagues, even if it's not managing experience. But Pools is doing Team Dominican Republic, right, for the World Baseball Classic. I guess if he gets the Angels job, he probably wouldn't be. But yeah, it's just I just find it fun, and I'm excited to see who ends up getting all these jobs.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see. It'd be really fun to see some old players start to come back in that role. So, who knows what we'll get. All right, let's end with Matt's dinger. If you would, please, what do you have for us?
Yeah, my dinger, and I am someone who is prone to this. I am very excited that both of the remaining undefeated teams lost this week. Granted, I'm selfish. If the Rams were undefeated, I'd be happy. But when the Rams aren't undefeated, I like a league that has a little parity. I think it's one of the best parts about football is the idea of on any given Sunday, any team can pull off a win. I didn't expect, the Saints to win this week, and I didn't expect the Titans to win this week, and they did. I didn't expect the Bills to lose, and I didn't expect the Eagles to lose, and they did. So to me, it's just it's another reminder of why I love Sundays. Is there's not many games that you can just write off. Like obviously, if you're watching a game and it's a blowout, you can write it off. But like going into any week, it's like there is excitement to be had in any matchup. You never know, right? Like even despite the records being what they were, people didn't expect the Jaguars to come out and do what they did to the Chiefs. Right, especially after what the Chiefs just did to the Ravens, there's so much parity in the league, and I kind of love it. Like, I love when there's a new crop of teams that starts entering their competitive windows. There's just something that I find refreshing about it, and I don't know, makes me excited. I feel like I'm not going to see the same 4 or 5 teams out of each conference every single year. We might actually see some teams who are good, not make it. And, all this, we're not writing off the Chiefs. I'm writing them off. I predicted it before the season even began. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be good. I don't think that the Chiefs will probably make playoffs, probably. So,
you're getting a little less sure of yourself with each second.
I don't know.
Well, I was saying it out loud and I felt a chill in the air, but, no, I genuinely, I think that the AFC West has good teams, and it's exciting. And that's not to say I don't like the Chiefs. Like, I have nothing against Patrick Mahomes, man. I love Andy Reid, but it's fun when even a great team can miss the playoffs. Like, I do find that to be a fun thing in a league. Like, odds are they'll be back next year if they miss this year, but that still makes them missing this year that much more fun.
Well, as it stands right now, obviously we're only a quarter of the way through the season, but the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Texans are all on the outside looking in. And those are 3 teams that I think across the board, they were picked to be division winners. If not, then wild card teams at least. So
those were 3 division winners from last year. Like that is 3 number 1 teams out of divisions who are not even just not in playoffs. Or not in first place. They're just not in playoffs. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. Love that.
So,
love that.
It is cool that the Jets are currently the only team without at least one in each of the win column and the loss column. They're the last team without a win. Bodes well for the Broncos in London.
Yes, sure does. It sure does. All right, so that'll do it for our NFL show this week. We thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube. Share us around. We'd love to grow this community a little bit. Let us know in the comments who you have receiving some quarter season awards. If they are different from ours, we'd love to hear it. And also just let us know in the comments how your team's doing. We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to hear how your
team's doing. How's your tight end doing?
Yeah, how's your tight end doing?
What's your tight end season stats?
Is he delivering for you? Is he making you happy that he's on the squad? Let us know. But you look, until next week, that'll do it for us. So take care, and we'll see you then. Goodbye.